Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Drinks and Movies with your hosts, Bearded Comic Bro and John from John's Comics with Kids. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up for Drinks and Movies.
Oh my God! I got the intro right for our return.
You know, it just took some time off for you to remember, hey, I have an intro I created. I should utilize it.
Oh my gosh. Welcome back to Drinks and Movies. I am John, and that's Greg from Bearded Comic Bro.
What's going on?
It's been too long, my man.
It has. I feel like it's been almost probably a couple months for us. Our schedules have been like just because we did our Oscar, and then we were like, we just need a breather for a little bit.
Yeah, I will legitimately say I've been cutting back because of work challenges and things. And this was the show that was like, you know what? I need my weekends back. And so this was the show that took the hit. And I do apologize for fans of the show and to Greg, of course, because we've been basically just trading barbs and chats ever since. That's basically our new hangout time.
It really is.
But I'll tell you, you pitched this idea to me like right after poor Richard Donner passed. And I was like, this needs to happen. But it was like, I just can't. And then tonight, my daughters and my wife went to outdoor movies with my brother. And I'm like, I'm not going to sit and watch Annie till 12 o'clock at night. I'm passing on that. So you, the chat, are the ones that win from that.
We all win. We all win on that one.
Well, let me say hello to the chat, and then we're going to check in on what everybody at home is drinking. If you're having some water or some lemonade, whatever you're drinking, you don't need to drink alcohol. We're just having a drink and hanging out and talking movies. Tailgater extraordinaire, the guy who I know has that notification bell clicked, Michael from Flashpoint Comics. Thank you, my man, for hanging out. Bearded Comic Bros linked his channels down below. Charlie and I still need to watch his Friday Name That Character because we were on vacation, so we missed Friday's Name That Character, but we're looking forward to it. The one before was pretty spectacular. We're big fans of that one. So
are you talking the one you did?
Yeah.
Then you've missed two.
I missed two?
You've missed the Green Lantern. Did you?
Oh, we did do the Green Lantern one. We watched the Green Lantern one. Okay, so we missed still. Yeah, okay, yeah. No, we watched the Green because Charlie was like, I don't know that I know all these Green Lanterns. So again, his channel's linked down below. If you haven't started watching Greg's channel, you're missing out on a lot of really fun stuff. So creator interviews, reviews for comics, his Name That Character with his wife, cooking advice, how to make great cocktails. It's all happening up there.
It's all entertainment.
We got Jennifer from Comic Books Will Break Your Heart. Good to see you, Jennifer. I'm sorry that you missed the show this morning. We got the one and only Biggie Shack in the chat.
Yes.
What's up, my man? I know he's a big fan of Superman the movie, so that probably is going to come up tonight.
I would imagine so.
Big Herm, how you doing, my brother? Good to see you. Let's see. Biggie Shack says, I'm running to get some milkshakes, but he's here. All right, we'll get those milkshakes.
I expect nothing less, Biggie. That's what I like.
Get that. And we got comics and death metal. What is going on? So for those that don't know, we're here tonight to talk a little bit about Richard Donner, the director, and the thumbnail can kind of show you some of the films that he's done, whether talking Superman the movie, Lethal Weapon, Goonies. There's a lot of great stuff here, and it's often easy to forget what a big fingerprint he kind of left on a lot of our childhoods if you really have missed out on some of these things. And when you go and start listing all of his movies, that's when you know the impact he made. So he passed a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and we want to take the time to sing his praises as we kind of did last year when we looked at all the people we lost last year. So this is our chance to say a little something for him for Drinks and Movies tonight. Before we get fired up, let's hear what are you drinking, Bearded Comic Bro?
So the only staple bourbon in my house was Jabroni's fave, and so
I gotta get some of this.
He always recommended it to me, so I always keep that on stash. Just got a new bottle, cracked it open. Like I said, I was telling John backstage, it was my first drink in like a week because I had some surgery done on my mouth, and so if I slur a little bit, it's that. It's not this.
So hopefully you're going to be okay.
I mean, I made it through an entire show with Jennifer and Will and all of them and Ryan last night, so I'm
Sure.
So going back with the whiskey and then mixing up with a little bit of sweet tea, So
there you go.
And what are you partaking in?
Jeffrey, yes, Comic Jabroni Nation, absolutely all day. And Flashpoint drinking the moonshine. Woo! And it looked like I noticed the beer mugs there for comics and death metal. I'm a big Guinness fan, so I'm having a little Guinness tonight. In the bottle with the little the little keg piece they put inside to keep it fresh. There's a little piece that bumps around inside these bottles. That's like this plastic thing that Guinness invented to keep their beer extra fresh in the bottle because they didn't want their beers in bottles for a really long time.
Huh.
Yeah. So I'm having a Guinness. And I'm finishing the whiskey from the last show that I didn't really finish through because I was over on Comic Chop News with Dan talking about The Prestige, one of my favorite Nolan films.
Such a great movie. Yeah, if you guys missed that conversation, that was a great one. That's such a it's weird to say it's such an underrated Nolan movie, but it really is.
Yeah. Ooh. Looks like Biggie just got done watching Burt Reynolds in White Lightning. What? I mean, I'm sure you got some kind of deep V, hairy chest action going on. I hope. So we're going to run through some of the Richard Donner films we want to talk about. Some of them we've already mentioned on this show because we've talked about them in other regards, whether it's we've talked a bunch of comic movies. We've talked a lot about different actors. And so it's possible some of these movies have come up, but we're going to get into them from the perspective of this filmmaker, what they might have meant for his career and the impact they've maybe had on us.
So, yeah. I'm excited. It's good.
Is there a movie you want to start with, Greg? Something that you're like, I really think we should start here. This is the place. I mean, we don't have to go chronologically. We're going to skip around as much as we want. There might be movies that we're like, I've never even seen that. So like his first two movies, I will legitimately say I've never seen.
What would those be? What are the actual first two?
The first two he made, one was called X-15.
Okay.
Then he made a movie called Salt and Pepper. And then he made a movie called Lola. And I have not seen any of those.
Okay. Yeah, most of his early stuff I have not seen.
Okay.
I'm just going to put that out there. It gets to, I mean, I think it takes me up till Superman before, and then it seems pretty consistent of I've seen everything from everything from Superman on. Then
that really just leaves one other movie that maybe you haven't seen then that I could throw in here to start us off with, which would be his first big hit movie.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. I know what you're doing.
The Omen. And which is for me, I'm not a huge fan, but it's basically like a Exorcist adjacent kind of a movie, a little less with the creepy she can walk like a spider and turn her head around backwards kind of thing, but more like this kid's just going to creepily stare at you and then creepy crap's going to happen.
Yeah, creepy kids, that bothers me.
Right? It's very Shining style, but Shining light.
Okay,
is what I would say.
Yeah, and I feel like this is one of his only kind of endeavors into kind of the horror film, genre. Really,
it is. Yeah, but he's got a pretty diverse list of movies and genres.
You go as I started prepping for this today, to kind of go back and look at some of the titles. I'm like, wow, it is. You go from comic book to kids to you have a horror here. You have more kids movies. You have buddy cop movies. You have just straight action. It is a diverse filmography for sure.
Totally. So again, if you haven't seen The Omen, and they made several sequels about the creepy boy Damien.
Yep.
I would put The Exorcist and The Shining clearly above The Omen, but The Omen is solid, and it definitely showed that Donner had a way with storytelling and a camera, and his sense of storytelling was so solid that they ended up giving him the shot at making Superman because of how good this movie was and how much this movie made money, because this was a huge hit.
Well, I want to watch The Omen at some point for the just fact because, like you said, the kid Damien is a Richard Donner has a way, if you look at his filmography, he can direct kids. And I think that takes a special talent, because we've talked about it on the show before. Kids can either make or break a movie, right? Like they really either right there perfect, or it's like, ooh, you are way too, annoying of a kid.
Right. And I think it's this testament to his ability to cast child actors, but also, to direct child actors, which is very challenging. Oh, please, Damien lost. Biden is the president. Let's move on. Wow. Okay, we're not going to get too political here, TJ, but I'm giggling on the inside.
It has a legendary Gregory Peck.
I think it's a worthy successor, but you could tell that it was the era of The Exorcist and The Shining, and people wanted another iteration. And this is definitely a worthy successor to those, for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure Gregory Peck crushes it in this role too, because it's Gregory Peck.
Absolutely. And he does remind me a little bit of the doctor, I think it's Donald Pleasance in Halloween.
Ooh,
the guy who's like chasing Michael Myers around the city.
Yeah. So good.
Okay, so then do you want to just jump through to the one you mentioned a second ago?
Well, let's hit Superman. We've talked about Superman on the show. This is iconic. This is the staple that you don't make a comic book movie without referencing Superman. I even think I saw like in an interview with Kevin Feige, he said like for a while, like he had people watch the original Superman as in like when they were writing, because he's like, this is the bar that we have to, if not hit, pass. Like we can't, like this is a creme de la creme. And does it have its flaws? Sure. Like I have issues with, like, I don't like the ending. I've said that on the show before, time and time again, but man, oh man, were the performances fantastic? Was the story great? And Donner directed it to a T, in my opinion. I thought like this was, if Omen was his like coming out party, like this was his like saying like, hey guys, I'm the real deal. I can direct, and you're gonna say my name with a little bit of respect now.
I totally agree. And the stories about how hard this movie was to make, oh my God. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little echo. I don't know what's going on here. So I do know that like he went through a ton, that the filmmakers behind the scenes, the producers were not happy with him. They were always threatening to pull the plug. He was trying to make two movies at the same time, Superman 1, Superman 2. And in the end, it got so bad, they just told him to stop shooting Superman 2. We're not even going to worry about it. He stole the ending to Superman 2 and stuck it into Superman 1, made his own movie. He had a lot of arguments and difficulties with Brando. He had issues with Gene Hackman. And had to, I told the story last time about him having to trick Gene Hackman into not having a mustache. It's a hilarious story of him.
It's so good.
Gene Hackman was like, I'm not going to shave my head and I'm going to wear a mustache, and that's going to be my Lex Luthor. And he had to convince him to do the fake wigs and then the one scene at the end with the bald cap on top. He had to convince him to do that, and he had to convince him to shave the mustache off. Very, very interesting. And then
wasn't the story like he had a fake mustache? Donner wore a fake mustache. Is like, I'll shave off mine if you shave off yours.
Yeah, Donner wore a fake mustache for all the pre-production of the movie, all the prep, and then basically just told him, I'll shave mine, you shave yours. That's the deal. And they showed up. And they showed up the first day of filming. Hackman shaved his, and then Donner just peeled his off, and it was like nailed it. But so like, I think it's the greatest origin story for a comic book character ever. Yep. I think it captures all the like wholesome Americana, even though they shot it in Canada, all the wholesome Americana of Smallville. I think it's beautiful. All that stuff is beautiful. You could nitpick any movie, and certainly there are things to nitpick. But Christopher Reeve is Superman, and he is so flippin' good at this.
Yes, this is one of those where I always say, like, when the debate comes up of like, who's your Batman? I always say it's like, well, it's when you saw it in theaters, like that's your Batman. Like, for me, Val Kilmer, like, and most people who saw Michael Keaton, like, I feel like this is one of those roles where it's not like, where I feel like it still is iconic enough that Christopher Reeves played this role so well. He
Right.
was cast so well in this that I grew up like 8 years after this movie came out, and this is my Superman. Like this through and through. There's no knock, no shade to any of the other guys that have portrayed Superman, but this is Superman for me.
Yeah.
And man, it's a testament to just again what Donner can with what he brings to the table with. And man, Superman was so good.
They did not shoot all of the movie in Canada, but the farm Kansas stuff, they couldn't find fields that looked enough like Kansas the way they wanted it to look. So they went to Canada and shot the stuff. That Smallville was Canada.
And this is what 1978 was this when it came out? Okay.
Yes.
The effects hold up really freaking well for someone who's flying. Like, again, you can nitpick certain things, but man, the effects still like when I think Carlito said in a chat already that, Donner made you believe, and it says it on the poster that, it made kids all around the world that they could fly. Like, made you believe that man can fly. Like they did because it looks so realistic.
Absolutely. And I remember hearing story because casting Superman was so hard. I remember hearing stories of when they put Christopher Reeve first on wires and flew him around the set. He stuck his hands out in front of him, which hadn't really been a big Superman thing even in the comics up to that point. But they saw him do it and they're like, oh, damn, that's Superman. He just sort of instinctively did it to like control himself a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it became this thing where like, yeah, the hands out in front flying. So cool.
It's iconic.
Absolutely. Now, I kind of feel like you can't talk about this one without talking a little bit about the fact that this exists, which I think is really a testament to Richard Donner and the love people have for him. But I will also say, even as a big fan, this is a disappointing watch, but mostly because they have to string it together with scraps, then test footage and animation. They had to make this work because there's a huge bunch of this movie missing that they never filmed.
Yeah, this isn't Warner Brothers coming back and giving Zack Snyder.
It is not.
This is pre-release the Snyder Cut by like 40 years.
Right. What's up, Dan? Remember, I was over on Dan's channel. If you missed it earlier, you can go back and watch a discussion of The Prestige on the Comic Chop News channel.
So do you? But I mean, you don't necessarily love the cut. Do you love just this a theatrical cut of Superman 2?
Yeah, I don't dislike either one, and I do think that they are part and parcel. They go well together. Yeah. But it's like an A+ movie and a B+ movie. Like they're both enjoyable, but I don't feel like they stand toe to toe. And even the Donner cut is not worthy of the original Superman film.
Yeah.
For me. Right. I don't hate it. It's enjoyable, and I enjoy them both probably equally. I would have loved to have seen this version fully complete, Snyder Cut-esque.
Right.
That would have been amazing.
Well, but that's a testament of, and I don't even know the background of why, Donner wasn't on the third one or fourth, but you can see from, that they needed him on the third and fourth, because that shows you what I think he brought to the table, because we don't talk about the third or fourth ones ever.
Right. Because you shouldn't. Nobody should.
No.
So there's some mixed reviews here in the chat. Stay Puff saying the Donner cut is hit or miss. I like some of the additional cuts and lack of comedy, but I didn't like the reused ending from the first film, which I totally get. And then it was Richard Lester, most known for Hard Day's Night. Yeah, let him work on the Superman movie. I mean, I get that. That's sarcasm. That sarcasm actually came through in writing. That was beautiful. TJ saying that it was a big improvement. I can see both sides of it, and I think both of them are incomplete, but also enjoyable. And so, yeah, it is what it is, I guess. Rod, the freaking Rican is in the chat, and do I have them nearby? I do. What is up? I even have it so here's what I did, Rod. I put one of them backwards so I could see your logo, and then one of them forwards so I could see the cover. But here it is, arrived today. The Edge issue number 2, the freaking Rican variant. Look at that. Look how beautiful. You guys, check it out if you want to support a channel, a friend, but also an artist and an indie comic. Check in with Rod over on his Instagram, the freaking Rican, man. Get your copy.
I thought my package was going to yours because it went from Florida to LA and then came here. So
It looped around and got back.
I was like, oh man, he's making sure John gets it first.
Well, the funny thing is, it was supposed to arrive the day I left for my trip, so like it didn't arrive, and I left, but we held our mail, so it was all good. But you guys should check it out. He's only got a handful left, so you got to make sure if you want to grab one, you better get on over it.
Yup.
So sorry, I got just a little distracted. What are your thoughts on the Donner cut?
I definitely tend to, if I'm going through to watch it, I watch the theatrical cut most of the time. The Donner cut, like you said, it just feels pieced together,
right?
And I enjoy it from that context because I think I then appreciate the theatrical release better, but it just feels more complete because it flows better. I
get all of that, and I think this is the only version they could cut together, and I do think it's impressive that he got this cut because there's plenty of directors who never get that chance. Snyder and Donner are really the only guys that got that as far as comic book movies go. So pretty impressive, but also maybe goes and shows the wishy-washy executives at Warner Brothers.
Because I guarantee you they're probably still the same from 40 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
They don't change ever.
They just keep making the same bad choices. What do you do? Okay, so that is the early days of Donner. We kind of went through, but we can skip around a little bit. Is there a movie that you want to get to? The movie that you're like, I really want to talk, whether good or bad, you just want to discuss it.
Man, there's so many that we can talk about. So there's not one that I'm like, I have to, that's the one. There's one, let me just say there's one I want to talk about, but I want to leave it a little bit.
Sure. I got a comedy. Do you want to go to a comedy?
Let's go to comedy.
I think this is an underrated movie. Have you seen this movie?
A long time ago.
So for those that don't know, Richard Pryor for me has like 2 comedy movies that I think are kind of on the similar, like Brewster's Millions and The Toy are like twins, and they kind of go together. They have wonderful comments about class and about race in the 80s that I think are really, really like interesting, and also like hilariously entertaining the way they present him. I really loved this movie as a kid, and I watched it and Brewster's Millions a bunch. Have you seen The Toy?
I saw it, like I said, I saw it a long time ago, and this is one I want to revisit because I want to see how it holds up, and how it holds, because I know what it dealt with, some of the issues like you mentioned that it dealt with. I wanted to see kind of how it played out in today's day and age, and how it holds up. So it's probably been a good 15 years since I've seen this one.
I would say it's probably been about 10 or so for me as well. So in that neighborhood, but I remember seeing it on like HBO a bunch with Brewster's Millions and this, I would catch it again. So those that don't know the story is an eccentric billionaire played by Jackie Gleason has a spoiled son, and he promises the son he can have anything he wants for his birthday, anything he wants. And he sees this black man walking down the street and he picks that. He says, I want him. That's my toy. That's my present. Buy him. It's a comedic, dark comedy look at slavery in some kind of a way. And so Jackie Gleason goes and says, okay, like, what'll it take for you to be my kid's toy for a week? And basically buys Richard Pryor for his son. But of course, the experience teaches the boy a lot about life and kind of like what this means and what having money means responsibility wise. There's a lot of great like life lessons going on. This movie had a lot of big thoughts, and then it had Richard Pryor being Richard Pryor and hilarious. Right.
So it's interesting, you know, I want to go back and revisit this and see how it holds up to in this day and age. But it's because, man, Richard Pryor is hilarious.
He is. And I do agree, like, it's lesser Jackie Gleason. Like, Jackie is not at his peak here. But the two of them do have some great moments together.
Well, and I feel like that's typical, though, like, because I feel like Jackie Gleason by this stage, when did the toy come out? In the
82. So it would have been right after Superman 2 came out in 1980.
But that was definitely, I mean, I feel like Jackie Gleason's like, you know, he was definitely on his tail end of his, you know, acting and comedic runs then. And
you like Suicide Squad. I can't even count you anymore.
So it would, I don't have an opinion on this one because it's been so long since I've seen it. And I know and I remember liking it when I watched it. But I also just know like how often like you and I have done this show where we've gone back and revisited movies.
Right.
And I go,
maybe it just doesn't hold up. Yeah.
Ooh.
And this has some very touchy subjects and comments on race and class.
Right. And that's where I'm like, ooh, I don't know. Like, I can't say like if it does hold up or not or where it is on that.
Yeah. I don't know how it would hold up at all. Chet says, excuse me, can you point me to the Omni X-Men? The toy was good back then. There you go. The toy was bad, but not as bad as Robin Williams' toys.
And now, see, I remember toys a lot more than the toy.
Yeah, I actually like toys. But
I actually like toys too.
I'm okay with toys, but mostly because I really like Joan Cusack, and I think she's hilarious.
Maybe that's what we'll do maybe we'll do a little crossover with Dana and Carlito and talk Robin Williams movies because holy cow, that would be a long show.
Whole buckets, right? Right. So okay, then he's got comic book movies, he's got horror movies, he's got comedy movies. This guy's doing a lot of different stuff. Where do you want to go from here?
Let's go. We'll go childhood, but not the big childhood one that people know. Let's go Radio Flyer.
Boom.
This was a movie that I watched all the time as a kid. It had Elijah Wood. I think it was Elijah Wood in it, right?
Yep.
And it had Joseph, the kid who plays Tim in Jurassic Park.
Not Magliano.
Mazzellano or Mazzello. Yeah. Joseph Mazzello or something.
Joseph Mazzello, yeah.
And this is another, you know, and you also had the dad from Home Alone is in this.
Yes. I can't remember the actor's name, but Tom Hanks has
John Hurt.
Tom Hanks has a small cameo in this one.
Adam Baldwin's in this. This is another one of those movies that deals with touchy subjects too.
Yeah.
Of, you know, abuse of, you know, with children. And this is their escape, right? Their Radio Flyer. This is like a promotional movie for this company's wagons. Yeah.
Joe Mazzello. Mazzello.
It's those two. It was they played. I believe they were brothers, right? They were.
Yes.
Okay. I loved it as a kid. It's one of those. It made your they had those imaginations of like, we're gonna take our wagon and we're gonna fly. We're gonna make it into. We're actually gonna make this Radio Flyer fly to escape the horrible life that we're surrounded with in our home life of the abuse of adult.
Their stepfather who is an alcoholic and an abuser, played by Adam Baldwin, who you might know from the Firefly TV series.
Or Chuck.
Yeah, and I love Adam Baldwin is wonderful in this as a very despicable character. And so the story is told in flashback. Tom Hanks plays the Elijah Wood character as a grown-up, and he's looking back at this experience and what it meant to him. Really, really powerful movie. Yeah. And again, the comparisons to E.T. it's very Spielberg-esque, this movie.
Yes. And again, it goes back to what we mentioned with earlier on the show. Donner could get kids, he could get a performance out of them. These two give great performances. Yeah. And again, it's one I need to revisit. It has been a while since I watched it, but I know I watched it on repeat all the time as a kid. It was 1992. It was when it came out. So, I mean, I was right around these kids' age in the show, in the movie. So, like, I didn't have that experience as a kid, like, so I couldn't relate from that, but I could relate from the fantastical element of like, hey, I just want to, maybe escape my world. And, right. We all have imaginations as a kid, and they like take it to the next level. And I just think it was the chemistry between Elijah and Joseph is great in this movie.
Well, and it's also pretty amazing that Donner worked with both Frodo and Sam before they became Frodo and Sam. Like he had these great child performances from Sean Astin and here Elijah Wood in this case. Really, really great. Yeah.
Yep.
Look, see, a lot of people remembering this movie. That's awesome. Good call.
I don't remember. I didn't remember. Did he not speak in this movie?
I don't remember it either.
I forget it because I remember I always the completely different storyline, but I know in The Client when we were talking, I think Schumacher films, the kid doesn't talk because he witnessed it. You had the
no, I think he does talk in this. There's no mention of it here on the thing I was reading.
But yeah, I remember that in The Client where the kid sees a murder and doesn't talk, and we talked about that. So, I want to rewatch this. We should have a viewing party again, gang. We should just
all in. I mean, in fact, going over the list of movies for Richard Donner, there were plenty of movies where I was like, I gotta rewatch that. Rewatch that. A lot of his movies are on HBO Max. I noticed a bunch of them over there. So if you have HBO Max and you want to see some of these movies. Obviously, all the Superman movies, all the Lethal Weapon movies, Maverick, a bunch of his movies are Warner Brothers. He worked through Warner Brothers a lot. So they are in the HBO Max archives if you want to cruise over to HBO Max. Just as a little helpful thing. PJ, what is up? So yeah, great movie.
I was going to say, chat, what is it from the chat that we haven't talked a Donner movie?
What Donner movie so we're talking about Richard Donner, the American filmmaker, huge hit success in action, comedy, lots of different kind of things. Is there something people are hoping to see? But I would already take Stay Puft. He's done it.
And Lady F is Lady S now. She's, of course, I knew Lady F knows what's up. She's, because the beans kept getting worse. Yep.
What did I miss? Is it not
appearing in the chat? She's like, yeah, it was Bobby. That was a little brother's name. And the beans kept getting worse, and he didn't. And
there you go.
Lady F knows what's up.
So as far as comedy goes, we mentioned The Toy. I think Scrooged is his other big comedy hit, and it is an absolute great Christmas movie. I think it's one of Bill Murray's best movies. I think it's hilariously funny. I think I love the Scrooge story. Anyways, I'm a Dickens fan, and I think it's one of his masterpieces. And what a wonderful modernization of this story. I think it's beautifully captured. I love the three ghosts. I think are perfect, whether it's Jim Henson's puppets as the ghost of Christmas Future, so good, or whether you've got the two actors who are, I think it's Carol Kane and Buster Crud. But they do a great job of casting the ghosts. I'm gonna forget the ghosts. They Buster. It is Bobcat. Carol King. No, it's not Bobcat Goldthwait. Drat. I'm gonna have to scroll down.
David Johansen is Christmas Past. Carol Kane is present.
David Johansen, but I remember him as Buster Poindexter was his pseudonym because he had like so I call him Buster. So there you go. That's why Buster Poindexter. Yeah. See, thank you. Yeah, it is Buster Poindexter. But yeah, he went by. Apparently, his real name was David Johansen. I learned something. I love the ghosts of Christmas Past, Present, Future. Really, really well done. So yeah, Scrooged, a great movie, and again, feels like a totally different genre from everything we've mentioned up to now. For me,
this is one that.
There's a bunch of movies in the chat. We have not gotten.
We haven't gotten to it yet, Chet.
Hasn't happened yet.
Assassins haven't yet. Nope.
I love it. Look, there's a bunch of conspiracy theory chat going on here. Look at this. I love it.
So Scrooge is one that I don't love. I think this where it falls into. I mean, I would have been like 3 when this came out, I think. So like I definitely miss, like, I'm not watching it as a kid.
Okay.
And it just doesn't hold up for me.
So this is 1988.
Yeah, I was like 3. So there you guys can know how old I am now.
11. I was 11.
It just doesn't. I remember watching it, like, and I don't watch it at Christmas very often. I think I've watched it once or twice. And I love Bill Murray. Obviously, I love Richard Donner stuff. This just feels, it just doesn't hit for me for whatever reason.
Todd agrees. It was too silly for him. He didn't feel like it worked for him. Ooh, 4 thumbs down to Scrooge. From how many thumbs do you have, Chet? Come on, man.
Chet has a lot of thumbs. And I there's a conspiracy about how many thumbs he actually has.
I actually love both. So in your face, Dan, I love both. But Groundhog's Day is obviously the superior movie, but whatever.
So at least I'm not in them. I thought that'd be a hot take by saying I don't love Scrooge. And
I think it is a little bit. I think it is a little bit. But I do enjoy it. And I love all the Murrays because his brothers are in, a bunch of his brothers are in this. One of them actually playing his brother in this.
That's funny.
Yeah, so he's got a whole, there's a whole Murray clan going on here. My extra thumbs are muscles. There it is. There you go. Hey,
now see, that's a hot take. That's a hot take for me.
A hotter take, but I'll watch them both back to back, giving them all of them. I'll take all of them.
We just visited the Christmas Story house a couple years ago. It's up here in Ohio. You can go visit it.
So the chat seems to have picked our next movie because a bunch of them are bringing up conspiracy theory. And I think this is almost, it's funny because I think for a lot of people, this would be lesser Richard Donner. I'm
surprised that this is so high up on everyone's Donner list.
But I will say this is a movie that capitalizes on 2 things. One, wonderful use of the conspiracy theory world, much like a lighter Department of Truth kind of thing. But 2, Richard Donner's chemistry with Mel Gibson, which is kind of an ongoing thing. I think
because this is what, like their 6th movie by now.
It's a long list of movies, and I think it shows that they had a shorthand. They really got each other, and this movie, I think, with any other director or any other lead actor, might have been just a complete disaster. But the 2 of them together somehow works.
Yep.
For me.
And this is because right, he writes like in conspiracy like newsletter, right? Like of different hot takes of like, here's conspiracies that we have, and like he writes like a monthly one, and then he basically like he has like 5 or 6 people that like actually listen to what he reads, and they all die, and like they're coming after him, and he's like they're trying to figure out which conspiracy he's thrown out there.
Yeah.
That is actually true, that someone's trying to kill him, so it goes away.
It's a clever premise, and I will say the worst part about it is the Roberts Gibson chemistry is just not there.
It's uncomfortable at times.
Yeah, I don't think she was very well cast in this. I think they wanted a big name to go with Gibson, and I just think that it was not a great pick. But independently of each other, they're pretty solid.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like this was 97. I feel like this was right around that time. Like there was a lot of those like conspiracy style movies of like I feel like what was the Will Smith one? Gene Hackman was around that time, like 98.
That was
Enemy of the State.
Enemy of the State, yeah.
You had The Net. With Sandra Bullock, like a couple years before this, were like erasing the identity. That's again, I think that's why it's interesting that people love this is like in the chat as much, because I feel like their chemistry was a little off, and it was a little bit like
all of my nephews are listening right now. They should be watching they're doing the dinner and a movie. That's my dad. So
but hey, Pops.
What's up, Pop? How you doing? For me, I think one of the underappreciated parts of conspiracy theory is Patrick Stewart as the villain.
Yes.
I love Patrick Stewart in this. I mean, give me more Patrick Stewart like all day. Like I think Patrick Stewart is amazing, and hashtag he's my captain. I think he makes a really great bad guy in this, and is really uber creepy for me.
Yeah, he. I feel like he should play more villains.
He could. I mean, he was the Green Room, where he's like the white supremacist. Have you seen that movie?
The Green Room, was that the Oscar?
Let's see, what's it called? Let me see if I can go down.
The Green Book.
Is it Green? No, not Green Book. No. This was a horror movie basically that he made.
No, I didn't.
I gotta find his credits. Oh, this is gonna stink. Darn you! I think somebody in the chat will know. So he played. It's basically like a movie about a club where there's a party going on, and these people stay after hours, and it's getting a little weird. This club turns out it's like a white supremacist like hangout, and the leader of the supremacy group is going to show up there, and it's Patrick Stewart, and they're going to kill somebody in the club, and there's witnesses, and they're all trying to hide out and get away. It's like a dark, Green Room. It is with Anton Yelnats. There you go. There it is. So he plays. If you want Patrick Stewart as a villain, that's some scary stuff right there. Scary stuff. You will not look at Patrick Stewart the same way again.
Well, I don't know if I want to see it then or need to see it.
Yeah, he's a very scary bad guy. But again, I think the groundwork is kind of laid here because he's great in this as well. Let's see here. Did I miss something yet? Let's see. He is a silver fox, even though he doesn't have any hair. So I don't know how silver. He's a bald fox. There he is. Was it Chrome Dome fox?
There's hope for me then.
Hey, I agree with that completely, Lady Fantastic. Let's see. Did I miss anything? Ian McKellen is apt pupil. Okay, now you're talking about other great ones. Okay, so conspiracy theory. I think we hit this one? We ready to move on? Let's see what else came up. Here's one that is childhood stuff for me. This movie, and I saw somebody say they hated it in the chat, but I'm sorry. I'm a big fan of Lady Hawk, and it hits on several levels for me as a kid. Firstly, I am a fantasy nerd, so I definitely loved anything that had a D&D take to it. And I was like 8 or 10 when this movie came out in 85. I don't know when I saw it. I didn't see it in theaters, so I probably saw it on HBO or whatever. The other thing it had going for it was obviously it has Ferris Bueller as the lead, and I'm a Ferris Bueller kid, so I was like, okay, so they put Ferris Bueller in a D&D movie. Like all of that was leading to some success for me. Michelle Pfeiffer is gorgeous. Rutger Hauer is a really great hero character in this. I'm a big fan of this movie. So
and who wasn't Doc Ock in this one?
I don't.
Alfred.
I think Molina is in this. Is he?
I think so.
Let's get the cast up here. He might have had a small role. John Wood is the real villain in this. Let's see here. Alfred Molina is the wolf trapper. I forgot. Yeah, this is around the same time he had done Raiders of the Lost Ark in '81, and he was had that small role in that. That's interesting. So I really do love this. Chet loved it. I'm glad to see I'm not the only one. Dan likes it. There we go. Biggie, you haven't seen it. So let me give you the synopsis for this if you've never seen it. So this is a fantasy story. So you get swords and magic, no dragons or anything like that. It focuses on a thief played by Matthew Broderick, who is locked in jail by the evil. He's kind of a cardinal, like a religious figure, played by John Wood. And our hero escapes from the prison. He's one of the first to escape. And he runs across the countryside and runs into this knight, played by Rutger Hauer from Blade Runner. You might know from Blade Runner. And Rutger Hauer saves him, but wants nothing to do with him. However, Matthew Broderick is like, I'm not going to survive on my own. The police, these cops, these local knights are going to come and collect me if you don't take care of me. And Rutger Hauer has this unusual hawk that is with him at all times. At night, he asks to be separate from Matthew Broderick, and turns out that there's a curse or magic spell placed on the hawk and Rutger Hauer. And at night, they swap forms. And Rutger Hauer turns into a wolf, and the hawk turns into a beautiful woman played by Michelle Pfeiffer. And they follow the sunrise, sunset, and they switch bodies in between. And they can never be together because the evil villain at the center of the story wants them separated for all time because he can't have her. Nobody will have her. Really simple kind of concept. And as Matthew Broderick sort of figures it out, he goes about trying to help them break the spell, basically, is the premise of the story.
So if you're not sold, then it's not for you, because I think, John, you articulated it greatly.
I love it. I think it's very kitschy, but also like a ton of practical effects. They do a lot of in-camera trickery for when they transition from wolf to man or from hawk to woman, zooming in on an eye and then fading between the eye of a hawk and Michelle Pfeiffer's eye, things like that. They don't do a ton of special effects. It's really great sets, costumes, and photography that makes this work. And that's why it doesn't age for me. It holds up. And I've seen it in the last 5 years. I'd say about 5 years ago I saw it, and it holds up for me.
This is another one I need to go see again. I saw it as a kid. I saw it younger. Man, he plays great villains.
I mean, I love him in Blade Runner. Obviously, that's when I first saw him. But then I saw this, and then I saw Hitcher way later, and then I was like, dang, that guy's scary as heck.
Well, since it just got brought up, this is a completely random side topic. So if you guys watched a couple weeks ago or a week ago, John was on my channel. We did a recast this X-Men episode. And someone in the comments or in the chat said Rutger would have been a great Magneto.
In the heyday, I would have been down for that. Absolutely. I mean, not now.
Right.
But certainly, yeah. I would totally agree with that.
Yeah, not closer to when he passed. No.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyways, if you like fantasy, if you like the movie Willow, or you like fantasy movies in any way, this is a hit for me. And you're saying you don't remember it too much from back in the day?
No, but while we're on fantasy, you might as well just go to his other one as like his second to last movie he directed. We're talking Michael Crichton's Timeline, gang.
Do it. Go.
This is a movie. I probably like it more than most people do. I think it came out in 2003. So my mom is it Michael Crichton, right?
Crichton. I don't know how to say it.
I
always say Crichton.
So Michael Crichton, huge fan of his. So the Jurassic Park movie, she would read the Jurassic Park. She read The Lost World. She would read those books. My dad would read John Grisham books. So that was Christmas as a kid. I would just get them. Oh, there's a new Michael Crichton book. Cool. Here you go, Mom. Oh, Dad, there's a new John Grisham book. Here you go.
Right.
This is like Assassin's Creed before Assassin's Creed was a thing. It wasn't a great movie. Paul Walker, R.I.P. I like Paul Walker in a lot of movies. He doesn't do a good job in this one. No. But I'll tell you who does a really good job is Gerard Butler in this.
Yes.
Movie. Yes. He does a really good job. And it is a Paul Walker led movie.
Yeah.
But it is 100% Gerard Butler steals the show. And I think this was the early stages where we started to get to see that Gerard Butler was going to be a star. Because I'd have to look at the timeline of movies that he made. But it was definitely, I think it was before he really blew up with his stuff. So,
let's see.
Phantom of the Opera was 2004. 300 was 2006. So it was, I think 300 really was when he blew up. But so this was the starting formation of that. It's not a great movie. And I'm glad it wasn't Donner's last movie he directed. But I feel like we just had to at least.
I will legitimately stand for this movie as well. I would give it a C+ probably as a movie, but I highly enjoy it, and I'm a Crichton fan.
Whatever.
I still think one of the best reading experiences I had with books in that era was Sphere, which became a horrible movie, a legitimately bad Dustin Hoffman.
Was that Samuel L. Jackson in that one?
Yes.
97 movie. It was so bad.
They butchered what is an amazing concept. But I've read Timeline before I saw the movie. Read Jurassic Park before I saw those movies. And I do enjoy a great Crichton concept. And I do think this pays a lot of things into a good Crichton story, but like you're saying, really miscasts the lead. And as a result, kind of fumbles its way along and is a Gerard Butler like star-making kind of movie that just doesn't get there. So I did like Sagan's Contact. I think it's a good movie. I think they fumble the ending a little bit, but the other like 8/10 or whatever of Contact with Jodie Foster is really good. Sphere the movie is a convoluted mess. Sphere the book is riveting, and I think one of the most psychologically powerful books I've read.
Oh snap! I'm looking at Carlitos. Was Congo a Crichton book too?
Another Crichton book, and
I love that movie. I'll die on that hill.
Absolutely.
I thought Congo was a great movie as a kid.
He was a master of like big concept stories.
I still have the Congo action figures. I might be the only person who still has freaking Congo action figures. I have them.
Congo action figures.
Oh yeah.
Hey, everybody, I am a Carolina Chris fanboy. Chris, thank you for hanging out in the chat. If you guys aren't following Chris on Instagram, Twitter, wherever you can find Carolina Chris, I'm a big fan. Thank you for coming by, Chris. One of the most entertaining and funny guys I know. Yeah. I think Crichton has a masterful skill of creating great big concepts. They don't always translate well to screen like Jurassic Park. Even Jurassic Park, I think, is pales to the book in a lot of ways. Rising Sun is another example of a great book and a mediocre movie where Wesley Snipes was really miscast in that movie. They were trying to make.
We talked about that with Sean Connery in the retro.
Sean Connery is the character because Crichton even said, I named the character John Connors because I wanted Sean Connery to play that character. But it just didn't happen because they cast Wesley Snipes, and that was just a debacle.
Oh man! Now
yes, you did say Congo action figures. You could be dead. I'll
find my Ernie Hudson. I'll post it. I'll send you a picture, chat. I know I have an Ernie Hudson action figure. I also have who was the who was he was bald, big black guy. It literally is just jacked back black guy in pants.
Okay, well there you go.
That's it. Like that's what the action figure is. It's fantastic. So
all right, I kind of feel like we're almost an hour in and we haven't gotten to that yet. And I spent this evening before my girls left locking away and being like, I gotta rewatch this. I do have a huge soft spot for the Lethal Weapon films, and specifically for this movie in particular, number one.
So you went and rewatched it today. You got to rewatch.
I only got halfway through it.
Okay.
So I think the original Lethal Weapon is a masterpiece for several reasons, but screenplay being the key one. I think Shane Black nails the screenplay, even though he's probably doing a lot of cocaine while he did this. There's a reason why he became the most valuable screenwriter of this era and then crashed and burned on a cocaine habit because he made a ton of money off of creating really interesting characters in a really complicated screenplay looking at race, certainly class, again, looking at post-traumatic stress of soldiers coming back from Vietnam, looking at the challenges of being a police officer, and then, of course, just making a good freaking boss action movie here.
Yeah, this is one of those series, and we said we're going to have to talk about it all at the same time because it all runs together for me. Like, I can't remember what I'm like. Oh, you remember when this happened? I'm like, wait, was that in 1 or was it in 2 or was it in 3? I didn't think Joe Pesci showed up until like Lethal Weapon 3, and he's in Lethal Weapon 2.
Yeah.
But And he's also still in Lethal Weapon 4 for some reason, but
yeah. No, I agree that it does blend a little. I like to think that Lethal Weapon 1 stands. Like it just, most of the stuff you remember from the best for Lethal Weapon for me is in this first movie.
yeah.
And I really do think it is powerful to watch. Now, is it silly and absurd at times? Yeah, the Gibson performance of Riggs is over the top. And I think they go a little, they're right at the line for me. But this still ranks as top 5 action movies of all time for me. Mostly because the Murtaugh Riggs Gibson Glover combo is perfection. As far as casting, chemistry, it's perfection.
I mean, it basically is like you are the Murtaugh to my Riggs. Like, I mean, we are like that's why we get along so well. Like, you're too old for this.
He was too old for it in the first movie, and then went and made 3 more.
So here's what's really interesting is like I always find it funny, like not funny, but like I'm always curious to see how people watch movies and like what order they watched them in. Right. Because what do you think was my first Lethal Weapon? I'm just curious to think.
3. 4 was your, oh my God.
Because Lethal Weapon 3 was
Lethal
Weapon 3 was 1992. So I still was 7 years old. So my mom wasn't letting me watch it at that time. So I don't think it was Lethal Weapon 4 was what? 6 years later or something?
So like Lethal Weapon 4 was 98.
98. So like that was like the first time, like that was because was that R2 or was that did they finally like go to were PG-13 to try and get?
I think they were all
R,
but let me double check.
So, but that was at the stage where my mom, she always took me to movies, and like this would have been one I was 13, 14 probably when it came out. She's like, I'll take you to go see Lethal Weapon 4 because she wanted to go see it, and then she'd just like, oh, we don't say things like that, like whenever they talk to do something. So I went and saw Lethal Weapon 4, and then I had to backtrack. And that's the way it should be. I mean, naturally, and rewatching it, I will say Lethal Weapon, hands down, is still the best one.
Right.
There's
Lady Fantastic saw Lethal Weapon 3 first. So there you go.
It's because because I've seen this with the same type of thing with people with Die Hard, the order of the Die Hard movies that they saw. I think I saw it out of order too. I think I was Die Hard 3 first, and then went back and watched 1, 2, 3, and then I think there's like 18 more now. But this is the chemistry. This was in the era of action movie, but it was a different style of action movie than your Sylvester Stallone action 80 movie. It was different than your Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie. Even Die Hard, because this is where you really get the buddy cop aspect that, it's kind of like what, like, Die Hard, you had, what is it?
Bruce Willis.
Yeah, but no, who plays the cop, and then he's a cop in Family Matters.
Oh yeah,
too.
Al Powell is Reginald V. Val Johnson.
Yeah, but like it's like that kind of chemistry that they had, but then was like, but it's actually they're both at the same level. Where Bruce Willis was like here the whole time, and Reginald was here.
Yeah,
that chemistry then it was brought together for this, and I think it really worked out really well. And I think it kickstarted this kind of buddy cop, movie film. And
I will say that's one of the biggest things that hurts Lethal Weapon now.
Yeah.
Is that it has become a cliche.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think people have now, by the time people get around to watching Lethal Weapon, they've seen Rush Hour, right? They've seen iterations of this that detract from the originality in some way. It's kind of the same things that hurt from when you watch certain older black and white movies like Citizen Kane. It's not impressive when they're like, ooh, they did a flashback. Like, who cares? But that movie invented flashbacks. You got to understand the value of what Citizen Kane did to tell a story in flashback that had never been done. Versus, to do a buddy cop movie on this scale, to make it about race again, to make it about class and to make it about life experience. This is a movie about two Vietnam veterans dealing with what they are left with after that time.
Yep.
You see how Murtaugh has moved beyond his experience because he was saved during the war by a war buddy. And you see how Gibson has basically dug in, and he has the experiences from his time in Vietnam have basically led him down a path for the rest of his career. And they are in very different places in the police department because of their time in Vietnam.
Right.
And this movie doesn't work. You know, I still can't believe they tried to remake it with the Wayans brother in the lead. Like, this doesn't work outside of the Vietnam War for me, because these are veterans from a war that had a very different impact on the U.S. And you look at these characters and it's like Mel is playing something of a John Rambo, right? And Murtaugh is a very different veteran. And I think it's interesting to look at that. And then, of course, you have Mr. Joshua and the villains in this story, right? Gary Busey and those bad guys who are also there's a lot of veterans, and the war in Vietnam is sort of looming over this whole first film.
Yeah. I forgot that they did Lethal Weapon as a TV series, and so I went back and just looked at the IMDb.
So I can't believe they did that.
And what's crazier is 55 episodes.
They did 55 episodes of that show?
55 episodes of it on Fox. They went for 3 seasons.
That tells you what name value, name recognition does for.
I will say, though, Damon Wayans, was not, but the guy that they cast, I don't even remember his name. The guy they cast as the Riggs, it worked. Like, it worked for what they were doing.
I never was going to give that show a shot.
No, I mean, rightfully so, but I did watch, I think, the first season of it just because I was in college and I had nothing else to do or something. Like, I was like, all right, yeah, why not?
Right.
But
so that's a great movie. Should I keep scrolling through the other ones? Do you want to talk?
Go for it. I don't. You would remember them better. Like I said, they blur together.
The first film was really about them meeting. They're forced together on a really interesting case involving mercenaries from, soldiers from war who have, in our case, our heroes who've become cops, and the villains who've become drug dealers. They are smuggling drugs into the United States because of their connections in Vietnam and in Southeast Asia. They're able to bring the drugs into the U.S. and they're selling them on the streets. One of Murtaugh's friends, his daughter has gotten into a very bad way, and the drugs lead to her death. And that leads to the heroes in their story. And they're dealing with their demons from Vietnam. Now, Lethal Weapon 2 is a look at apartheid. It has more to do with the issues in South Africa. The villains are apartheid leaders in Africa, and it has to do with transferring and trading money via Krugerrands. And Joe Pesci comes in as a money launderer, and they're protecting him. He is in witness protection, and these cops are protecting him. So the second movie has a lot to do with race, and it really looks at apartheid in South Africa, issues in South Africa.
Yeah. This is one of those where it's like, yeah, these are so good. Like, man,
so many great.
Joe Pesci was great in this one.
Yeah, and
they should have kept him in this one. Like, he got to the annoying side piece character in 3 and 4.
Yeah.
But he fit what they were doing in this one really well.
And I will say, I legitimately love 1 and 2 to perfection, but I don't love 3 and 4 all that much. I can enjoy them because the chemistry is still there. The acting and entertainment is still there, but 1 and 2 work on a whole other level for me. I wanted to mention this. So I read a little back history on Lethal Weapon, and specifically the fact that for 6 months, Gary Busey and Mel Gibson trained in 3 different forms of martial arts for Lethal Weapon 1. That was like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, capoeira, and some kind of prison fighting. that like some kind of bare knuckle fighting. They spent 6 months, 4 hours a day training in fighting because they had a stunt coordinator who was a special forces soldier who wanted to basically Richard Donner had pressed him to create a new kind of fighting style that they could use in the movie. So just something cool to like add to your Gary Busey had taken like 6 years off from making movies after his Buddy Holly performance was Oscar nominated, I think. And he refused to make any movies. He wasn't auditioning for anything. He read the script and then forced them to let him audition for this movie. He had gone and worked out. He had gotten totally Chet shredded. And, you know, where's my Chet? Where is he at? He had gotten totally shredded like Chet. And he went in and auditioned. And they talked him into bleaching his hair blonde. And he got the part in Lethal Weapon 1 based on how shredded he looked. But yeah, I think Gary Busey gets sort of forgotten as part of Lethal Weapon 1, but definitely his Mr. Joshua makes that movie work.
Well, it's a good movie when National Lampoon's parodies you. So like
Loaded Weapon is a really good movie. It is a legitimately entertaining.
That's when like the Naked Guns, the Loaded Weapons, like the airplanes, like those were when they're in prime. And then it was like, and then they started to do it with everything now, and it was like Scary Movie was good, and then like Scary Movie 2, 3, 4, 5, like those were so like, but like yeah, Loaded Weapon. You got Samuel L. Jackson and what was Emilio Estevez?
Emilio Estevez and Tim Curry as the Mr. Joshua role. Wilderness Girls,
so good.
When he knocks on the door, he's got his beard, but he's got the Girl Scout outfit. Wilderness Girls.
Gary Busey is so great. Like I still remember Gary Busey in his roles on like Entourage.
Oh my god, so good. So yeah, I think, and that's the point at which Lethal Weapon became a caricature of itself, and that's why I don't enjoy 3 and 4 as much. For those that need a reminder, I can throw up the poster for that's 4. There's 3.
Lethal 3 though is when we first get Rene Russo.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Rene Russo comes in. This has to do with gun running. It has to do with corrupt cops who are letting guns back onto the street. And it has to do, there's even a Boys in the Hood subplot where Murtaugh's son is in with some gang members who are getting these guns. And one of Murtaugh's son's friends gets killed, sort of, like in Boys in the Hood. There's a Boys in the Hood subplot kind of thing going on here. But it has to do with guns back on the street and crime involving cops, crooked cops letting the guns back on the street. So I did want to mention this. Eric Clapton wrote or co-wrote all the main music themes in Lethal Weapon, and all the guitar riffs in Lethal Weapon 1 are Eric Clapton. And he did and created the Murtaugh theme, the guitar theme. Like that was Eric, legitimately
That's
Eric
so
Clapton, which is on a freaking whole other level.
So good.
So just shout out to Eric Clapton, and it's awesome that you know that fact, Carlito. So yeah, that's why all of the movies, when it comes to music, get double credit, because there was another gentleman who wrote the saxophone stuff that you also hear. But there's 2 gentlemen who did all the music, but Eric Clapton did the guitar riffs. So there you go, a little something.
And then Lethal Weapon 4, you get Chris Rock is thrown into the mix.
Right there, you get Chris Rock and Jet Li.
Which Jet Li, and I think I think it was Puff said 3 didn't have a great villain. But Jet Li was fantastic in this.
I like Jet Li a lot. And it is kind of funny to watch him kick both Murtaugh and Riggs's butt at the same time.
It's great. And I know Chet asked which one, and I mentioned it in the chat to him, which one where Murtaugh gets down in his underwear and clucks like a chicken. It's this one. This is the opening scene.
Yeah. And the toilet is in the second one. When he's on the toilet and he has to save Murtaugh because he's stuck on the toilet with the bomb.
The toilet bomb's the second. See, I thought it was the first. See, that's what the first and 2 run together, and it's so good. where that's like where it's a fine, it's a positive. I remember I'm like, oh, that was in the first two, where like you have like sometimes people like, oh, Batman and Robin and Batman Forever run together. You're like, no, please don't let those run together.
Yeah, right. For me, like the second and first really do kind of blend, and I think they continue the story well. In fact, so much so that the death of Riggs's wife, which is kind of the impetus of his journey, is kind of revenged and wrapped up. Because in the second movie, he finds the woman or finds the villain that killed his woman, and resolves the guilt and revenge issues he had with the death of his wife. And that's kind of cool. So for me, 1 and 2 tie together a story. 3 and 4 go in a totally different direction. By the way, 4 has to do with basically human trafficking. Taking of Chinese immigrants to the U.S. for manual labor is the main theme of or a plot device of Lethal Weapon 4.
And the people in the chat keep mentioning it, so we got to throw it. Chris Rock actually does a really good job in this. But I think this is where it's shown that Chris Rock was great as a secondary character in movies. When he tried to carry a movie on his own, it struggled. The Down to Earth remake, the Head of State, but like this was it because he was also like a side character in Beverly Hills Ninja, which was one of the funnier parts of that movie too. The Chris Rock, like that's where his moments shine.
Right.
But Puff didn't like Chris Rock in there. So
I will say this is when it got really goofy for me. And I didn't care for 4 a whole bunch. I liked Jet Li and I liked seeing them fight Jet Li. That was kind of cool. But and it's funny because Shane Black wrote a version of Lethal Weapon 2. They did not use it. They threw it out, but he gets story credit for Lethal Weapon 2. He wanted to kill Riggs at the end of Lethal Weapon 2. That was Shane Black's concept, was to really, he liked his movies dark. He wanted this to be a very dark series, but obviously the executives didn't want to kill their golden cow.
I'm trying to remember now, and I'm going to want to do research. I swear Die Hard 3 was supposed to be a Lethal Weapon movie. They reformatted it for Die Hard 3. That I wanted research, so don't quote me on this, gang, but I feel like, and it might have been Shane Black, they wrote and never clicked for Mel Gibson, didn't like the script that they wrote, and which is why you then see that buddy kind of chemistry between Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson that you hadn't gotten yet, because it was more of a lethal. And if you look at it back, it kind of feels like a Lethal Weapon if you take a step back from it.
Yeah.
I need to find if that's true or not, or if I'm just blowing smoke, but I'm pretty sure Die Hard 3 was actually a script that was floated around for many different movies of a Lethal Weapon movie that then Die Hard 3 clicked onto it. And so
anyways, yeah, I mean, it goes out on a whimper, but I think these films have strayed, much like the Die Hard films that Greg's mentioning, have strayed pretty far from their original. My joke about Die Hard is that, like, what I loved about the original film is that you're scared and worried for John McClane. And the problem with the later Die Hard movies is I feel bad for those terrorists. They don't stand a chance. John McClane's going to kick their butt. He's going to shoot down a jet and then have it land on the freeway and then jump on its wing and slide off the other side while it blows up and laugh the whole way while he says a quip.
So how much, I wonder how much does, because I feel like 92 is the third, so there probably wasn't as much, but I feel like by time Lethal Weapon 4 came around, you already got a lot of your buddy cops that we had talked about before this. And so if you weren't a Lethal Weapon fan, you're kind of like, you already had I think Rush Hour was before Lethal Weapon 4.
Before. Yeah.
You had a lot of those more, and I wonder how much that hurt it, because for like me, I didn't grow up watching Lethal Weapons, so to then that be my first one, I'm like, oh, I liked Rush Hour better than Lethal Weapon 4.
I mean, I was 10 when Lethal Weapon 1 came out. So by the time it was on HBO consistently, I probably caught it over there. I know that I saw them in order, so I was definitely lucky for that experience. And I hadn't seen buddy cop movies really at that point. So for me, it felt very original. It felt like a new idea, a new concept. And I had seen only a little Mel Gibson by that point. I probably had seen a Mad Max or something. So it was probably Thunderdome, because I know I saw those movies out of order. So it worked for me on the level of it felt very different. It felt very original. And this is still high on my list of Christmas movies. Lethal Weapon 1 and Die Hard are way up there on Christmas movie lists for me, which is funny because now I've got two Richard Donner movies that are on my Christmas list.
And Batman Returns is up there as on a Christmas movie for me. So,
and easily down there with Batman and Robin for me on my Batman list, like just down near the bottom of the tank. Just for Hong Kong, you'd already be dead. Oh, there you go. So I guess we finished Lethal Weapon as a series.
I think we have.
Okay. Robert the G-Spot Galvin, what is up, my man? You want us to go there? We can. I've only seen this movie one time. I have very little memory of it because I just found it unmemorable. Do you have any memories for 16 Blocks?
I thought it was better than Timeline.
That's not an impressive brag, I suppose.
I mean, it is a very much cliche cop saving the criminal, defending him against crooked cops. That it was a different take a little bit, but I enjoyed it. It's not one I revisit a lot, but it was fine. And I'm glad. I think it's better like that was his last movie than like Timeline, even though as much as like I have still an affection for Timeline. Yeah, and I mean you said it, and I think the chat has said it. 16 Block was okay, typical plot device, right? Was decent, like it was fine. Man, Chop, Dan, you're talking some heat with that. It's a terrible Batman Return.
I wouldn't go that far.
I wouldn't go that far. It's probably my least favorite. Not least. I
think it's one of those that people love or hate, because I know people that say it's their favorite Batman movie, and I'm like, okay, that's a hot take. But I know that there are people that really feel that way. I wanted to show this. I know that this movie was not a huge hit, and I think it's funny what people nitpick about why this movie is not a hit. Take a look at this poster and see if you can figure out why this poster is different from the last one. I'm going to give you the other one back.
They flip-flop to the lead. They put on the lead.
No.
Go back one more time. The towers.
Bruce Willis doesn't have a mustache in this one.
Oh my gosh. No, I didn't even notice that.
They took Bruce Willis's mustache off. I think it's just like they're like, oh, but it's Bruce Willis. We got to get rid of that mustache. That's why this movie's not going to be good. It's Bruce Willis with a mustache. It's the mustache. What?
Wow.
Why? Why is the mustache the thing, right? Why is it the mustache? I think it's hilarious, the things that people
it's like not. It should, instead of one witness, 18 minutes, it should be one mustache.
Right.
118 minutes.
So funny. But see, clearly he couldn't convince Bruce Willis to get rid of this mustache like he could Gene Hackman.
Because he knew his tricks. He was like, listen here, Richard. I know your tricks. I know you don't have a mustache. No.
Right. Yeah. You can't fool me. You fooled Gene Hackman. You can't fool me. We're kind of down. I mean, it's an hour and 20 minutes in, and I feel like we kind of really just have a handful of movies left. I know the big one you want to save to last. I know that this one came up earlier. I don't know if this needs to be discussed. I feel like I will legitimately say this. The thing that makes this movie watchable is watching Antonio Banderas chew the scenery, because Antonio Banderas is so over the top in the movie Assassins. Sylvester Stallone is a waste of space. And this is one of the few times Julianne Moore is boring to watch. But Antonio Banderas is buck wild in this movie.
Yeah.
And is so over the top. He's like the Joker in this movie.
Yeah, I don't.
Not a good movie.
I don't got much to say about Assassins. Sorry, gang.
So have you seen this movie at all or no?
I saw like one time on like TNT or something.
So this is one of those movies where it's like Sly is an assassin and he's sent to kill a woman, but he can't do it. So there's another assassin coming to kill the woman, but now he's got to protect the woman from the other assassin.
And he's got to kill that assassin because he's never going to be the top assassin until this assassin's dead. And
come on, Chris, where are you? You've gone buck wild on me.
Well, you did say he's one of the funniest people you know, so that must have been one of the jokes.
Very funny. There are a couple of scenes with Antonio where he is just so, yes, he makes this movie.
Yeah.
Pop is right. He is so over the top. It's hilarious. Stallone is like cardboard in this. This is the end of Stallone being entertaining in movies for me. But Antonio is fire, pure fire in this.
So, I mean, PJ mentioned it. Are you excited then that Antonio is going to be in the new Indiana Jones?
No, I'm not excited that they're making another Indiana. After watching them nuke the fridge literally in the last one, I'm not looking forward to more.
It's still indie for me because here's my deal. Like, I'm not saying Kingdom of Skull. I'm saying like, I'm still gonna watch Indiana Jones. If it's in Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, I'm gonna watch it and see what happens. Because here's the deal: if it sucks, oh well, I still have the other three, and if it's good, I got another one that I really like. Like it doesn't take away from the others. So
right.
So I'm here for it. I like give him a shot to take Shia LaBeouf out of it.
I like Julianne Moore. I will legitimately say I have a thing for Julianne Moore, so I'm okay. Julianne Moore is fine with me in most movies. Love the Big Lebowski. Definitely not my Clarice Starling, but that has nothing to do with her. She got her money. She's living off those Hannibal paychecks. You know that for life.
And it's just that Jodie Foster was so my Clarice. So
absolutely. So okay, we can skip that one. We can move on from there. Let's see what else.
I think we really have two movies left. I think we have another Mel Gibson, and then the one I want to say for last.
Was there another Mel Gibson movie that I didn't?
Oh, there's another Mel Gibson.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even load the picture for it.
No, there's another Mel Gibson.
John, what is your problem? Okay, I'm gonna take this banner down. Sorry, and you're gonna vamp for me a little bit here.
So, gang, what is the movie? Let's see how well the chat knows. Richard Donner, what is the movie that John is loading the poster of right now? Another Mel Gibson movie we have not talked about. First person in the chat gets a high five.
You know what it is? I think I loaded the picture and the picture was the wrong format, and so then it wouldn't let me. So bad at this. God, Puff's already got it. God, Puff, you beat me to it, my man.
Well, he said Maverick was bad to me, so I'm just assuming he knew.
All right, there you go.
Sorry. I just want to make sure you got this one and not the Top Gun 2 Maverick movie poster. So
no, I didn't. I think what it was, I loaded the wrong file format, and then my computer didn't recognize it, and I forgot about it. So there you go. Tequila Sun. Chat. I will say I do like Tequila Sunrise, but get out of here.
Like this was probably my first exposure to Mel Gibson and like Richard Donner. It might have been one of my first exposures to Mel Gibson because I didn't get to watch like Braveheart as a kid. Like I'd have to look at his movie repertoire where it fits in.
R-rated, graphically violent movies.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for anything like in the Western realm. Even though I wouldn't really consider this like Western. Like
it is, but it's not a traditional.
Yeah, like it's in the Western realm, and it deals with more of like the like. It's like if Rounders and a Western had a baby. Like that, and they produce Maverick, and that's not a bad thing because I like those, but like it's all about the hustle of the card game, the big hustle and put into the Western world. We still have to do a Western sometime because man.
Yeah. So now I will legitimately say my dad's a big Western fan. I saw episodes of the TV series Maverick with James Garner as Brett Maverick. Like I saw it. So I had a little bit of that world going in, which is outside of the normal John Wayne Clint Eastwood style of Western, where you have comedy and in typical James Garner fashion, he was known for playing action heroes who weren't violent. That was kind of his shtick if you don't know your James Garner story. So James Garner plays the dad, spoiler alert, the dad in Maverick. He also played the original Brett Maverick on the TV series. And he had a private investigator TV series that was very popular where he also played a PI who was not like Magnum pulling out the gun and blowing everybody away. So the Rockford Files was another show where he was like this non-violent hero who would find a creative, somewhat comedic or odd solution to problems. And I do think this movie plays a ton of tribute to the show that gave birth to it.
See, I never watched the TV show. And I saw someone in the chat that James Garner wasn't a big fan of the movie.
Okay.
Was that true? I
didn't know that.
So yeah, I get like, and then go to Puff. I get what Puff's saying of, that's where I say like it's a Western, but it really isn't a Western. That's where I say like it's a comedy. It's a comedy put into a Western. You had a comedy with Blazing Saddles, but that was a different style comedy in the Western.
Danny Glover's cameo alone pushes this out of the Western category traditionally, because Danny Glover robs the bank, and you even hear the Lethal Weapon theme pop in when they're looking at each other, recognizing one another.
Although, Puff, are you saying Tombstone also didn't appeal to you? Is that what your Tombstone 2 means? Because I'm okay with hot takes, but
that is a pretty hot one.
Oh my gosh.
And I would argue that in traditional Western parlance, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid breaks the rules of Westerns and goes in a different direction. And that's how I felt as a kid. When I first watched Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, I was like, this doesn't feel like a Western to me, Dad.
Right.
I grew up with Clint and John Wayne. This Butch Cassidy and Sundance was trying to eschew a lot of that and go in a different direction, much like Maverick is. But, that was just me, what I grew up with. But that doesn't mean, so all of that does not mean this is not enjoyable.
No,
I find this movie very entertaining. And my daughters have seen it. It was their first Mel Gibson movie.
See,
if you don't count Pocahontas, which nobody should count Pocahontas because that movie's horrible and runs slipshod on history in a horrible Disney way. Maverick, I found very entertaining. I love the runaway stagecoach stunt sequence is buck wild good. I love all the little silly twists at the end. And you know what really makes this movie work is Jodie frickin' Foster. I love her as this character. I think Jodie Foster is wonderful, playing a role that is so outside of the box for Jodie Foster and nailing it.
Yep. Okay, Puff redeemed himself. Okay. He was saying he was lumping it in with Unforgiven, and okay.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah. Never count. That's one of probably the only Disney movies my daughters haven't seen of the Disney princesses. Like,
I let my daughters watch the video of the Song of the Wind that's so amazing from Pocahontas, but the rest of that movie is absolute trash.
I haven't watched it in a while, and in while I mean like in 25 years, and I've avoided it on Disney Plus if it's on there. I'm
obviously, I know that Chris is Native American. He has Native American heritage. I don't have it, but I feel like that movie is offensive to my, like, just being an American. That movie Pocahontas is offensive to me.
Yep.
Those are great Westerns. I do agree.
Great. Yeah. That could happen someday. We can do a Western.
Yeah, we need to do. Hey, maybe that's the show we need to do with Dan and Carlito. Is a Western two-parter, modern and classic Western two-parter. So Dan and Carlito, let us know what you're thinking about that. I know that they had pitched David Fincher retrospective as their option.
Oh, okay.
So we can think about David Fincher. They can think about Westerns. I had mentioned loving Jodie Foster in this. Was there anything else you wanted to add about this?
I think the chemistry. See, this is where the chemistry between Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster work. That's where we said in Conspiracy Theory, Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts, it didn't work. This works here. Jodie Foster, like, she holds her own with like the, like the kind of, I don't want to say sleazy Mel Gibson, but like the
duplicitous.
Yeah, like like that thinks he's the cock of the walk. Like
egotist.
Yeah, like, and she holds right up there with it. So I think that chemistry works well. I think Mel Gibson and James Garner work well. It's an entertaining movie for sure.
Puff says, me and Virgin Variety are looking to do 3 of the Man with No Name movies in separate videos. Woo, that'll be exciting. I know I'm supposed to be on their Friday movie talk show in a week talking about Commando and Arnold Schwarzenegger, because I know I've said some things that broke some friendships, and I need to get back in there. I do wish Jodie hadn't retired as well. I think she's pretty amazing. I enjoy Panic Room. I'm not going to throw Panic Room under the bus, but this is a better movie than Panic Room. Okay, so that leaves us with one last movie. We're at an hour and a half, and this is a movie that shaped childhoods. I think is a movie worthy of remembrance. And I'm going to go with the classic movie poster, although I have another one I'll play out at some point here. But Goonies Never Say Die.
Goonies Never Say Die. There are some movies in my relationships, like with like girls that I dated, like that would like
deal breaker
of this would be one of them. Like, you have to at least like appreciate Goonies. Like, Dick Tracy was also there for, like, you don't have to like it, but you have to at least allow me to like it. But Goonies, good golly, it is my childhood through and through. It is everyone's childhood through and through. It's not even my.
Wait. I'm going to pause this. Chet has not seen this movie until 2016. Call your parents and complain. They failed you in some way.
Well,
Chet.
I'm really curious then of what Chet thought of, because I feel like I made my wife watch this, and I feel like she didn't. She's like, I saw it as a kid, but like couldn't tell me anything about Goonies. So, I mean, this is the epitome of a great child cast of a movie.
Yeah.
You had some characters that were annoying, sure. But man, oh man, I think Mikey was on point. I think Data was on point, even though like people I know, Chunk was fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
So good. And Mouth was great. And then Brand, like, Steph was great. Andy was
I love how you know them by all their nicknames. That's how well you know this movie. You threw out Brand, and I was like, which one's Brand? I was like, oh, wait, that's
sorry.
Thanos.
So Josh Brolin was great. Sean Astin was great. Corey Feldman was great.
Right.
What was Chunk was Jeff.
ICTV video says they called me Data when I was a kid. That might be a little offensive. That's racist.
Jeff and whoever he played, Jeff Cohen. The dude is like
you've got a ton of great actors who go on to do a ton of great things, right?
We got Thanos himself in here.
Thanos, you got Samwise Gamgee in there. You've got a Short Round, right? Later to be in Temple of Doom. I think and we've got Corey Feldman later. Lost Boy himself.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is childhood candy for me.
Yeah.
And when I showed it to my daughters, I was so glad that it held up for them, that they really enjoyed it, that they got something out of it and really were entertained by it. I think partly I was worried that like Joe Pantoliano, Robert Davi, the villains of this would be too creepy for them.
Yeah.
Anne Ramsey, who plays Mama Fratelli, is super creepy in this.
So good though.
And she's great. And I was worried they would be scared. of this movie. But because I remember being scared when I first watched it, there were moments that were like, okay, heart pounding, but they loved it, and I think this movie holds up shockingly well due to mostly practical set built-in effects.
I mean, and that, you know, like that's where like this is one of those you always see like people go like Tim Curry, like you can tell like what someone like how old they are based of what they recognize Tim Curry from. Right. Like you could do the same with Sean Astin. You really could. Is he Rudy to you? Is he Samwise? Is he Bob from Stranger Things?
Yeah.
But I
My
mean,
girl is Bob from Stranger Things. No.
that's me and the missus. We met Mikey himself, and I had to wear my Goonies shirt. Wow. And he was like, he was so funny. Like, he's like, oh my goodness, that's me on a shirt. He's like, and this is before I did YouTube, otherwise I definitely would have given him a shirt. He's like, you should have a shirt with your face on it, and I could wear it while you're taking a picture.
That's funny. So I don't know. Did you put that on a Christmas card or anything?
Oh, I would in a heartbeat. I think we could get away with it.
I had a Christmas card with me and my wife and a different Hobbit. I'm saying we could have been like bros on a whole new level. So Billy Boyd came to the film festival that I was working at with one of his films, and I had a beer with him. He was super nice, and then we took a photo at his movie premiere that weekend. My wife and I and him, and it was our Christmas card that year.
That's fantastic, like,
right?
Yeah, we dropped the ball. I feel like because that means more to me, like Sean Astin and Goonies, like who I'm trying to think that con who else we saw there, because my wife probably would have been like, that's cool, but I would have preferred. We also met David Harbour at that one too, because it was kind of a Stranger Things.
I mean, my wife would have preferred Sean Astin of the Hobbit. I mean, she likes. The only reason she would want to see Elijah Wood because she wants to stare into his blue eyes, but Sean Astin is the winner for her.
Yeah.
Chung is in the chat. He said he met Sean Astin at his college campus when he was campaigning for Hillary Clinton in 2006.
That's awesome.
What? Look at all the Hobbit connections we've got here.
Right?
Love it.
This was also one of those, like, if you ever watched the Donner cut of this one, you see the octopus in the
Donner cut of Goonies.
I mean, it's in it. There's extended scene. Like,
okay. I was like, I'm a Goonies fan. How have I not seen?
No, it's not a director's cut, but it's one of those like
Blu-ray or something.
It's like a Blu-ray, like deleted scene. But there's a long like scene where there's an octopus with the space with the pirate ship in the cove.
In the ship when it's like breaking out on its way.
It's in the cove, not even breaking out. Like they're having the pirate fight and stuff in the cove.
Hey, you guys.
In the cave, I guess, because the cove actually is when they're breaking away. But yeah.
Baby Ruth.
I mean, such a quotable movie.
I'm sorry, my Wi-Fi is getting a little low, which is weird because I'm the only person using Wi-Fi at my house right now.
But like Chunk's whole rant of like when he was like, when I was a kid, one time I threw up on my fake barf and I was
my gosh. That is one of the funniest sequences ever. You're going to tell us everything. And then he's like, he just goes through and tells everything. And Pantoliano and Robert Davi are sitting there listening to this kid spill his guts. And it's hilarious.
And I know you're not as big of an Office guy as I am, but the scene where in the Office where like they're watching where the Stanton Strangler like basically drive like the police chase where they're trying to catch him, they drive by. I get flashbacks of like the Goonies scene of where like they're like, I saw it.
So good.
Yeah, and we barely hit on it. Like Brolin's performance in this as the older teen for him and Mikey's relationship showed Josh Brolin and Sean Astin. That is like a great chemistry for an older brother and a younger brother.
It's
like,
well captured. It feels real.
It does. And I think that is so like underappreciated for that movie where it really adds to it. You have that sense of mystery. You have that sense of this is one of those, like I always am like, oh, you can separate like, we just talked about Indiana Jones. Like Indiana Jones 4 doesn't take away from 1, 2, or 3 for me. However, I don't want to see anything touched with Goonies anymore because there's no need. There's nothing that they can do. They can't Mighty Ducks this. Like
at the same time, I'm the kind of viewer that is willing to let a bad sequel go and just be like, you know what? I can watch Die Hard 1 and love it, and I don't have to worry about Live Free or Die Hard or whatever crap sequel they produce later.
Well, look at how many bad sequels we do let go. Like, I mean, no one talks about Christmas Story 2. No one talks about Sandlot 2 or 3. Like, no one even knows half those ones exist. Like, but yeah, man, this is just, you had the Cyndi Lauper theme song. Like,
Martha Plimpton, I mean, she's awesome in this. Playing that sequence, playing the piano.
She's the one. She's not Andy, right?
No, she's Steph.
Yep,
Stephanie. Yeah.
See, Andy was the only one that I was kind of like, you're a little bit annoying of a like, but that was the role she was cast into to play. Right.
The best friend is Plimpton. I love Plimpton.
I love the chemistry between Mouth and Steph. Like, and like when Mouth is walking around with the house cleaner at the housekeeper at the very beginning,
translating so horribly.
And he's like, "This is where they murder people." Like he's translating, which so first off, no kid knows Spanish that well.
No, nobody. But it was so good.
But I will say the truth is, if a kid does know Spanish that well, he knows the types of phrases that kind. Because you took any foreign language in school, the first words you learned were the dirty words,
were the bad ones. Yeah, absolutely. So good. So, I mean, we finished strong for Richard Donner.
Yeah.
This is definitely a career highlight with Lethal Weapon for me. Lethal Weapon and Goonies are, and Superman, of course, kind of like the trifecta of great works from Richard Donner. And we're very sad to see him pass.
Yeah.
But have all these great movies to enjoy and appreciate.
That was it, man.
There it is, Biggie Shack. Goonies blew his mind.
No, he said never blew my mind.
I'm going to unclick that then.
Yeah, delete. Get out of here, Biggie. Like, what are you doing with your life? If Goonies was a comic book, Biggie, this was where we would be saying banger alert, okay? like anyone who says that, like, I just weep for their childhood. So, like, man.
And there it is. We are going to get out of here because it's an hour and 45 minutes, but this was a great time hanging out with you, Greg. Dude. The links for all of Greg's stuff is down below. You should check him out. You should follow the Bearded Comic Bro and catch up on what he's doing. You dropped a video Friday looking at Name That Character with the Wife movie posters. What else do you got coming up here?
Monday, I teased it on my Instagram. Gang, I got to sit down, and I'm posting the interview on Monday. I got to sit down with Stephanie Phillips, who is currently writing for Harley Quinn for DC on the ongoing. She wrote Nuclear Family from Aftershock. She was doing Butcher in Paris from Dark Horse, Artemis and the Assassin, like so many great books. And I'm blanking on other stuff that she did. Red Atlantis was one. Like,
nice.
She's doing a Man Among Ye, the pirate theme comic right now. Anyways, I had a blast sitting down talking with her about writing, like what it is writing DC Harley Quinn stuff. It was a lot of fun. Butcher Paris was great. It was a really good interview. I had a blast. Go check that out Monday night when that drops. I think I'm taking a break from Wednesday night content, and then we have another Name That Character coming up next Friday. And because John, you're a fan of the show, I'll tease it. So next Friday's Name That Character, Mrs. Bearded is on the hot seat, and I did a little bit because it came off of the Green Lantern movie, of where so many Green Lantern people have played Green Lantern. I was like, oh, who's this? So I took, is it Robin or is it Ghost Rider? And I just used their secret identities, and she has to pick, is it, because so many different secret identities are Robin or Ghost Rider. Like,
oh my god!
So she has to guess. She has a 50-50 shot. It's entertaining. So
that's hilarious.
So that's what I got. I'm off. I'm not doing any live content this week because I'm actually headed out of town for work tomorrow. So I'll be out for a whole week. But I do got 2 edited videos. Those will drop. But I just won't be doing live stuff until next week when I'm back in town on Saturday. So
awesome. I am on D&D tomorrow night for the Big Will channel. We are going to be playing our Dungeons and Dragons. Monday night, the Comic Gories Olympics continue. Yes. And we've got the long distance run. We got 4 community members who love a specific run of comics. Flashpoint is playing with his Flash books. Magic Lasso going with those Wonder Woman books. They're only allowed to play books from one run or one volume of comic books, and they're going head to head to head to head. We're going to see some great comic book covers in the Comic Gories Summer Olympics Session 2. If you missed Session 1, we had a really great show, so you should definitely check out the first round of Comic Gories Olympics. Old Wolf, happy to see you, but we are ending. So
Old Wolf, we were on for like 2 hours, son.
It's been an hour and 45 minutes. Wednesday, I'm on the Comic Core, and I believe Friday, I'm on Varangian Vigilante talking about Commando and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So definitely be there on the Varangian Vigilante channel for Friday's show. But that is it. We're going to bounce out of here. I'm going to say peace to you all, and I hope everybody has a great Saturday. We missed you guys this morning, but hey, we gave you a treat with a little bearded comic bro tonight. So, peace, everybody.
See.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Drinks and Movies with your hosts, Bearded Comic Bro and John from John's Comics with Kids.